Lesson 4 is Promise to Nations, and this is, again, just an introductory look at the covenant with Abraham. And we're familiar with the promises given to Abraham in Genesis 12. We see Abraham being drawn into God's story, he and his barren wife. At this point, they're called Abram and Sarai. And we see that God enters into covenant relationship and gives promises. I'm going to make your name great, he says. I'm going to give you a land. I'm going to give you a great nation. He says, I'm going to bless all the nations through you. I'm going to curse those who curse you. I'm going to bless those that bless you. And in Abraham, all the nations will be blessed. All the families of the earth will be blessed. This is a big promise that we see coming back around in the New Testament, especially in Paul. And we'll get to that in the next quarterly. But right now, we just want to get a glimpse of what these promises meant for Abraham, both individually, for him personally, nationally, for the people that are going to be coming from him, his own children, that will be a great nation, but also cosmically and covering universally, the whole world is going to be part of this blessing that's promised through Abraham. And what we see in Abraham are, again, a couple pairs that are critical in understanding this covenant relationship. God is the God who promises, and God is the God who commands. We see both of those features in the story of Abraham. And in the story of Abraham, we learn what's the appropriate response when God draws us into covenant and makes promises to us. And what we learn from Abraham in Genesis 15, again, a very famous book, a verse that Paul and James and others will quote, and that is, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. And so faith is the fundamental response to covenant relationship. When God says, I'm going to make my covenant with you, and this is what I will do. We see that over and over again with the covenants, as God says, I will do this, and I will do that. And what's our response? Well, our response is faith. And this is true of all the covenants of promise until we see it climaxing in Christ and our faith in Him and all the families of the earth entering into that blessing. But with Abraham, we see especially, it's really a main feature with Abraham is this response of faith. But also, along with trusting God, we also obey God. And we see that with Abraham too. Abraham is notable for, it says that, he obeyed God's commandments and statutes and laws. When God called him to leave his family and go to the land he was going to give him, we see that Abraham doesn't just believe, but that belief motivates him to act, and he obeys. And so we see this relationship of God's promises, covenant promises, and God's covenant commands. And we see in Abraham this model of one who believes and also one who obeys. We have a hymn we love, Trust and Obey. And Abraham epitomizes that. But it's true of Noah. We see Noah doing the same thing. In the faith chapter, Noah's faith is mentioned and accounted for righteousness. So this is, again, a fundamental characteristic of what covenant relationship is all about.